Meta Perspective Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Meta Perspective Podcast. We're your hosts, Alex,
Evan,
and the girl. This is the show where we talk about deep and interesting topics and try to get to the heart of the idea through multiple perspectives.
But if you are joining us for the first time, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel because we do random giveaways and rewards and things like that, so it doesn't hurt to stay active.
Speaking of staying active, don't forget to jump in that chat because Meta Perspective Podcast isn't meta without your perspective.
We recently redone the studio, so we got some new amenities in the background. You can't necessarily see them from here, but got some new floors. Everything's looking nice. Props to the homie over here. We're going to introduce a call line at some point. We have before in the past. It's not ready tonight, but in the future, you'll be able to anonymously call or text the line if you do want to be part of the conversation. And we do have the chat pulled up, as we were saying. We can see what and respond to what you guys say. So we want your opinions. Let us know if you like or dislike or agree or disagree with whatever we say. And you can help drive the conversation. That's what we're about.
Hell yeah.
But tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the survival mentality. Basically, that's the idea that, human beings come from a position of, living with a survival mentality. And, 60,000 years ago, all the things that brought us to where we are now influenced our tendencies and our minds and how we process information. And now in our modern world, that's kind of all been stripped away. So we're going to be kind of talking about how that relates to, things that we do and how we interact with the modern world. So kind of just to start off that discussion, obviously, it used to be a lot more dangerous out there. Human beings have a brutal past. I'm sure you all know that. We used to torture each other and used to, bash each other's heads in with clubs. But we don't do that anymore. Now we do it verbally. Or at least, survival has taken a different meaning in our modern world. A lot of it can be summed up as social survival. The skills and everything that kept you alive back then are now kind of applied in a way where, your social aptitude or your charisma, things like that, go a lot further than being strong and fit and all that. So we've come a long way from our natural origins to a society where things are rapidly advancing. Technology has basically allowed us to, feed everybody. While everyone on the planet is not fed, we do have the ability to, basically create calories, sugars, and things like that, oils and all that. So looking for food is not really a thing anymore. Shelter, like we used to live in caves and little huts and stuff like that. Now we pay rent and we buy houses and
Or
do all.
find an overpass.
Exactly. So exactly. So either way, you're still going to be okay. You can go to the soup kitchen or your homeless shelter, things like that. So we don't really have a situation where we're ever fighting for our survival. Now it's all become, these social constructs that, there is, I guess you could say, fighting amongst that. There's striving to get ahead. I think kind of going on that same line. So you used to hunt for resources, gather resources. Now, because resources aren't necessarily, they're abundant now. So it really comes down to, what are you going to do for a living? And, how do you make your money and all this stuff? And we've kind of been funneled into this way of, this is what you are supposed to do. And kind of, this is what a successful person does, but then you see other people doing things outside of that box that are even more successful and gaining more resources that way. And it's almost like, what are we doing here? You know, I mean,
I think a lot of it comes down to, like you said, we used to get our own food. We used to have to collect our own water, build our own shelters. So when all of that's taken care of, as people, we still have to do something. So that's been replaced with money. Money is your food, your water, your shelter. Money is everything. So that takes care of all your stuff. Since you don't need to go do anything, spend your time trying to collect this within a system generated to supply that if you get in line with it.
yeah.
So we all are just kind of a part of the same thing. And I think that's where the conversation is going to is a big split in the satisfaction, where when you build your own home and you get your own food and you get your own water, you are truly providing for whoever you're taking care of in your shelter. While nowadays it's more so like, well, I figured out how to get all this money this way, or I worked really hard and saved up and got my money that way. It's just a matter of like trying to build stuff up for the same idea, but you don't get the same satisfaction of I did something. It's like, well, I collected all of this so that I could do something with it.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to use the money to buy land and build my own home with my own two hands and then get like a bow and arrow and go out and hunt my own food like that. If
Yeah.
anything, you're getting a gun and you're still just like looking through a window, pushing a button, and you're like, I got him.
Yeah.
It's not like it was back in the day where it's like you're fucking rubbing the animal's piss all over you and like crawling through the mud for a while, and you're like, wait. And you're like, I go this way. And then, and you stab in the neck with a bone shiv you made.
Yeah.
Like there's not the same satisfaction of I just did something. You know, it's like, yeah, we got quail. I ordered it off Amazon. You're like, oh, well, it's not the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like for the amount of time that it would take to do all that stuff, you could basically just go get a job, work for the money, and then buy it yourself. Because it's mass produced in another country. And I think that's kind of the heart of the discussion tonight is like, people think that because we're modernized that we've lost this survival mentality. And I would make the argument that we haven't. It's just been masked. It's just been kind of covered up by all this stuff that we used to do for certain things that we already have now. So, and that kind of comes into what I was talking about in the beginning, like social survival. The strive to get ahead, especially like, I think about like the example of like within an organization or your job or something like that. There's people that are going to be kind of, go-getters or whatever. They're going to be out there. They're going to try to, outshine others or put others down. And that's just an attempt to get ahead the same way that we would compete for resources, 60,000 years ago or whatever. There's something in our DNA that still is wired the way that we used to be, but nobody really kind of stops and thinks about, what that's doing to our psychology and how that's actually playing out. Most people just accept, oh, life's not like that anymore. We don't have to do that stuff. And they kind of,
they almost disregard those parts of them.
Right. Almost like a docile mentality of just going through life. But, there's so many things to be proud of and excited about in our modern world. We take all those things for granted. At the same time, we're built with this inherent need for, getting ahead and fighting for what's yours. But most people don't. And I'm not necessarily saying that you have to, but it's the need, the necessity to do that has been stripped away. So it leaves a lot of people in this kind of limbo state of, why should I work hard because I can just go buy a bunch of sugar and vitamins, or something like that, So it's like it takes somebody, to understand your survival mentality and your need to get ahead, not necessarily at the expense of other people, but just the drive and what it takes.
Well, I think there's also a big difference as to why you're doing it. On one hand, if you have to get food, you can get food to feed you. If you live in like a village and you're one of the hunters, when you come home and you're like, I got this boar for all of us, the whole village celebrates you because you brought food to the whole village. It's another thing to come up with a product you're selling to all of these villages, knowing the product doesn't help that much, but just makes you a lot of money. And in a way, taking advantage of people to give you their money, which does not go back to these villages, which does not help these villages. So it's almost like, hey, I didn't bring a warthog to the village, but I did bring these nice moccasins. And they're a little nicer than what we normally wear. The only catch is they cost a little more. Okay, a few people buy them. It doesn't really help anything. And I got more out of that exchange than the village.
Yeah.
As opposed to me putting my life on the line to bring food to the village. That's to me what's taken advantage is now I'm actually getting more out of this transaction by convincing them that they should have the transaction with me.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm almost going to the village and being like, give me a little extra to the whole village. And maybe it's only a few people, but the few people of that village give me more than what I've given that whole village.
Right.
So the exchange is also, I think, something that's affected us and how we view these like personal relationships with one another is in going into that more selfish, like I'm doing this for me, I'm collecting the money, I'm doing all of this versus I'm doing this to help. You see a lot of that mask too. If people are like, well, I'm doing this because one day I'll have the money to be able to do all this stuff. It's like, well, you could already be kind of doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Your goal isn't doing that stuff. Your goal is money. The justification to chase money is I'll eventually become a good person who gives it away. But you won't.
Yeah.
Nobody ever finally hits their 10 mil goal and is like, I think I always said I could give half of this away. It's like, but I didn't understand, like when you own a $2 million mansion, like you can't just give half of all of your money away. Like,
it's
well,
tied up in securities.
There's things, I can start this foundation that will start to raise money. And, if we can raise $1 million by the end of the year, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, that's not why you said you set out to make that money. And now you can't spend that money because clearly that's not what you set out for. I think a lot of people's hearts too are, conflicted as to what they're doing it for. It's easy to go out and hunt because you're hungry and you're going to get the admiration of your whole village for feeding all of these hungry people. It's another when you have to come up with your own reasoning why you're going to go out and go hunting when you already have everything.
Right. And that's kind of the other thing too. It's that because there's no reason to
No
go
immediate
out.
threat.
Yeah, there's no immediate threat. You have most of the population in this state of, we've done podcasts on this, but basically slavery. It's like you have to work to pay the bills. You have to work to pay for your shelter.
Pay the bills.
You don't.
Bills.
Like you don't. It doesn't matter how you get the money or the resources or whatever, but you have to do that because there's no other option. The other option is, I guess, live at the homeless shelter or go buy sugar and vitamins from the grocery store. But it's like, without the strive to, without the basic survival necessity to go out and do these things, most people just fall into a docile state of acceptance and going through the motions, and they just kind of fall into, the same amount of time that you might be out there looking for berries or hunting or something like that and actually providing for yourself and all that. Now you're going to be working at Home Depot or McDonald's or something like that. It's like if you don't have if you haven't taken the time to build a skill that's like, going to get you money faster, but even if you do that, you're still working the same amount of time. You're just getting more, and you can amass more things that you don't necessarily need. So,
And a lot of that time you're cutting morals too. It's like, well, I was making this money, but I could make more if I did this. And it's not technically wrong. But the reason you didn't do it originally is because part of you looked at it as like, well, let's do it this way. And then you mastered that way. And you're like, well, we could push the envelope a little bit, and it's not technically wrong. And you talk yourself into a moral gray area.
yeah. Sorry.
Polo, lay down.
I was trying to
Stop
trying
being
to
a
say
goofball.
something? What do you think?
What are you trying to tell? You want to say something?
What do you think? What do you think, Polo? You want kisses? Dogs are also not in a survival mentality anymore. They get fed every day, and they bark and pee on stuff.
He's not even sure what he is anymore.
Dogs are pretty much the even further down the evolutionary ladder than we are now. So separated.
Jeez
from the
Louise. Push him. Down. You dork.
But yeah, like you think about people like farmers or stuff like that. Like in farming,
Bum ba dum bum 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 bum.
we are farmers. Yeah. Bum ba dum bum 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 bum. But
Is that my cue?
honestly, like, huh? I thought you were gonna do it. That's why.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah, we did it backwards. But yeah, like someone like a farmer, it's like that provides the most amount of resources to people, but then they don't get that much money. It's a hard job. The value of their land is really high. It's like you need that much land to farm. So it's like why has farming become a low level, like blue collar kind of job when it's like actually providing the resources? Well, that's because, like just the way that we built our society based on the monetary system, it's like you have basically ways to make money or create wealth by like handing money back and forth. That's essentially what it boils down to. It's like, oh yeah, I'm making resources by just moving this stuff around. And it's like, okay,
There's a
well,
lot of that.
like at what point does our natural instincts and where we've come from influence, or not influence, but like at what point is there a disconnect that starts to break down our realities and starts to really cause psychological confusion, not even harm, but just like, what am I doing? Where am I going?
Well, I think that's a huge part in like the outbreak of mental health. And, people often themselves more commonly than they did back in the day. People, we have, you could say food and all these other things could be issues too, but I think a lot of it is lack of purpose, not feeling needed, not feeling wanted. And a lot of that stuff I feel stems from like you said, our natural, innate, like our instincts, what's passed down generationally. The parts of us that say, like, you go out and you do something for the village and the village loves you for it. Well, I got nothing to offer the village. I feel like I'm not wanted. Well, there's an aspect of truth to that from what our ancestors came from. If you teleport me 2,000 years in the past to a village, I'm going to be like I'll watch you guys do this, but like, I don't, you want me to build all this stone stuff and like, what's it do? It just sits there. Like we could be doing different stuff with our lives.
Yeah.
They'd be like, where are you from? Like, this is what we do. It's like, there's a part of us that knows that we don't have anything to offer, while inherently we understand that we have so much to offer. We just don't have a platform to offer what we have anymore.
Yeah.
Because every outlet is already kind of secured. It's like, well, I could do this. Well, there's already people who do that. Well, I could do that. There's an entire like chain of those.
Right.
Like,
And that's the thing too. It's like if you want to do something, it's like, oh, well, how much is the next guy charging? Can you do it cheaper? Can you do it better, faster, more efficient? So it's like it kind of, it's like the playing field is level, but then in order to break out of it, you basically have to, you have to feed into that survival mentality and take risks and go outside of your means just to try to get ahead. And it's I guess you could relate it to, we're going on a hunting raid or something, and we're going to take down a woolly mammoth. It's going to be dangerous. One of us might die. It's like, all right, well, now it's like, well, you got about, $10,000 in your bank account. You could take out a loan to start this business. You could end up broke and with nothing, but that's the only way to get ahead. Or, you're just going to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it takes somebody with kind of something in tune with that survival mentality to.
Or you could say the opposite. Somebody who doesn't feel like they have anything, gave up, and they're like, I might as well risk it all because I don't feel like I have anything as it is. But somebody who, went to high school, got their, graduated high school, they got their diploma, and they work at Target as a manager, making, Polo, stop jumping up there. Knock him down. Oof. But you take somebody who's making, $20 an hour, and they're like, I feel like I'm making good money. I can afford my apartment, I can afford my car, and I have food on the table.
Come on, go through. You want to go through? Go. God damn it.
But that's the idea, is like, a lot of people in those situations aren't going to take the risk. It's like, well, if I mess this up, I mess up having a house, the car, and the food. So now I'm back at square one, and I set myself back.
Exactly. You're almost going against. You're risking your resources.
But it also doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Do I want to take a risk and risk losing what I have? Like, do I want to put everything I have on black and just hope I become a millionaire so that I can be as happy as I am now, but with more obligations, more stuff, more things I need to clean, more appliances that I need to check up on, all this extra stuff?
Yeah.
Or do I want to stay consolidated in a way that's manageable? Or do I want to become mismanageable? Well, you could push that money and you could have somebody else manage it and you could pay them to manage all your stuff. And it's like, but at the end of the day, what's the point? Why would I risk being happy for a chance to be rich and happy?
Yeah.
If rich isn't big enough to risk happiness.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, well, the risk is rich and inner peace. Well, that's better than happy.
Yeah.
I'll take inner peace and $1 million for 100, Jerry.
Well, this kind of comes down to the idea that I brought up in the beginning too, about the kind of social survival. It's like, okay, so you analyze the psychology of the tribe. So you have probably you have the chief who's at the top, and you maybe have some of the inner council, maybe some of the veteran warriors, people who are influential, strong, all this. And then you have kind of the run-of-the-mill, workers, and then the women and children, and, it's all this kind of hierarchy. But, you think about, the chief and his buddy or something. They're, sitting in the tent, smoking doobies or peace pipes or whatever. And it's people are bringing them stuff, and they're going out and doing the work and bringing it to them. The same thing applies now. It's just that, we have more options. It's not necessarily a leadership-based tribe. It's if you're charismatic and your social survival skills are to that level, it's other people can do work for you, and you don't do anything, and you get all the resources. Same way as a chief would in back then. The structure exists for that to be expressed now, and it takes a certain level of risk and stuff to get to that point if you're not. But at the same time, it's almost all of our instincts and all the things that mattered back then, are almost irrelevant to this new formula, which is all based on, it's like, it's charisma, and it's like being able to, I don't even know, like play the system maybe is a way to say it, or take advantage of people sometimes, or, like, and that's where the survival thing comes down to, because you have a bunch of people trying to do the same thing, and it comes down to who's going to win, who's going to do it better or get more business or whatever, however this.
Well, it's turned into villages versus villages, chiefs versus chiefs, and none of them are doing anything for their own villages.
Right, and they don't have a village; they just have themselves and their where they go home to, and it's like we're all in this world together, and everybody's competing for these arbitrary resources when we have everything that we need.
Yeah, which brings up the thing with Elon Musk. It's one of my things with him being in the news lately and being such an issue. I mean, he's one of the only people I can think of who's had just open patents on some of the biggest things.
Yeah.
It's one thing, like, there's some open patents, but, like, with what he had, for a billionaire, it only makes sense. It only makes sense. Come on, buddy.
That's where you want to be.
There you go. It only makes sense that a billionaire would have a patent on it because he's the only one with the technology. Tesla became one of the biggest electric cars and still is.
Yeah.
And
it's the biggest American car company.
And imagine how much bigger it would be if people didn't have other options. If other companies were bringing out stuff that was not comparable.
Yeah.
It's like, well, look, ours looks cooler. It's like,
well,
yeah, but it drives half as far and takes twice as long to charge.
Yeah.
I want the practical one with all the bells and whistles. And that would have just blown him up even bigger worldwide. But to leave an open patent that here's my technology, I want competition. That there's something admirable to that, because you're giving up a bonus fortune to sit there and for no reason just allow things to be open because you believe it helps.
I mean, it is admirable because once you achieve the richest man in the world, like, it would be very easy for you to continue to be richer and richer and richer. But it's like, for as much as, you don't have to like Elon Musk. He does a lot of things that people don't like. But if you look at his actions and how he uses his fortune and what he's actually developing, it is actually helping humanity. Like electric cars, he's improving the environment and our infrastructure, SpaceX, space exploration. The satellite thing is huge, like being able to give, internet to people just anywhere in the globe. Neuralink, people who have brain issues and stuff like that, or
people born not being able to walk their whole life suddenly are re-given the gift.
It's like,
that's pretty major.
Once you get to that level, it's like, okay, you could either be a miser and a greedy bastard and just keep making more and more behind the scenes and no one knows who you are, or you can put yourself out there. You can do all these things for humanity because, like you were a long time ago, you've already had all your needs taken care of, and now you're just, in a way, it's like a win-win. I love those situations where you're helping yourself, but you're also helping a cause or humanity or other people, and it's mutually beneficial. And I think that's like more of the tribe working together kind of thing versus this, survival, every individual out for himself, fighting to get ahead when all of our natural means have been met. So it's like, I believe that I have kind of a pretty strong survival mentality where, I understand these things, and it's not like I take advantage of people, but, it keeps me motivated. It keeps me working towards, something like, like all of my needs are met, but it would be great to not work. So like to bridge that gap, it takes some work, it takes some effort. I don't want to take advantage of people, but it's like, there is a level of that. It's competition. Competition isn't taking advantage of people. It's, two tribes fighting over the same hunting grounds, or, you know, like you have to get ahead somehow, and sometimes that means stepping on someone else.
Competition is good when it benefits everyone. You know, if he puts his patent out there and somebody else finds a way to make it more effective, finds a way to make the batteries equally effective, but somehow biodegradable. You know, when you open it up like that, you give people some of your secrets and allow them to add their touches to it, which that's what can benefit everyone in the tribe, in all tribes. The problem is when you have competition with tribes leaders versus tribe leaders and none of the people benefit, like cell phones. You know, we had so many different companies. Now it's like you got Apple, you got Samsung.
Yeah.
Apple and Android. That's about it. Well, don't forget Google. No, who could forget Google? Like another giant conglomerate. Who would have thought that the biggest search engine in the universe would create a cell phone? Like nobody talks about it. Yeah. It's Apple or Android. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it didn't used to be like that. But it seems to be almost too even of a split. It's like Xbox and PlayStation. It's like what's his name? George Carlin, you know, his whole stand-up special talking about how we're given a false sense of option where we don't actually have choice anymore. There is no choice. Everything is decided by the leaders. So all these greedy tribe leaders are all together in their own tribe, while the tribes are all all out here really kind of fending for ourselves. Well, these guys are like, no, we're out here working for you. We've actually created a way for all of us to talk. And so did we. And we've given you options.
Yeah.
So there are no options. You will have a phone. And
Right.
you will need a phone. I mean, I switched my car insurance. They don't really do physical cards. You download the app and show that. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what if my phone's dead?
Well, yeah, if my phone dies, that's a problem. Do I have to give the cop my phone if I get pulled over? I don't want to do that. I don't want to hand him my phone. That seems like some kind of violation of like privacy.
Yeah, I
like,
wouldn't do that.
but that's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, but that's where your card's on. It's like, send me a physical copy. I'll print it out.
It's like, all right,
Like, this is weird.
hey cop, I'll text it to you. It's like, no, that's a violation of privacy. It's like, okay,
Here's my whole phone.
well,
But that's what I'm
you
saying.
can
is
take
it's
a
like,
picture of it.
That's
from
what
my
I'm saying. Is
phone.
it's an illusion of choices, and so that's why I like competition when it comes to, like, one company will benefit. You never see them saying, "Well, I'll give up the benefit for the competition." What you see is competition being created to create more competition, all over the same thing in one direction, and none of it benefits anybody. You know, kind of like cars. You know, it's like, look at, you know, you have screens in cars. We were talking about that the other day. All luxury cars started getting screens in them in like the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
So you get a brand new Mercedes, it's got a screen in it. No other car does. Your Honda isn't coming out with those. But Lexus is. Toyotas aren't, but Lexus is. It's like, but Lexus, like a lot of these the high-end versions of these, like this Acura does, a high-end Acura, but the Hondas don't. But they're owned by the same company. So it seems like they all have access to having the stuff in there, but they're all like, if you want the screen, you have to buy the highest model because that's the standard.
Yeah.
It's not helping anybody. If you have the capability of making your Honda like a Mercedes, do it. That'll boost you, right? That's competition. But no, we all have to work on competition together.
Yeah.
So we game it so that if you want that car, you take an extra step up. An extra 10 grand gets you that.
Yeah.
I got to use it. I tried.
That's all right.
I made it. Made it decent. Made it all the distance.
Well, another part of this conversation that I wanted to kind of touch on was, oh my gosh, goat. So like, you know, because we have this survival mentality, this competition and this fighting and this survival mentality kind of plays out in our individual lives in areas that we wouldn't think it would or don't even mean to or understand that it does. And that is kind of, it comes down to kind of like You know, like the basic example would be like cliques in high school or something, where it's like, because, you know, if you are one of the cool people or if you're not, you know, it's like you're gonna feel like you're, like the cool kids are the ones that talk down to the losers or something like that, or like, you know, the loser kids are intimidated by the cool kid or whatever, and that's kind of like how the psychology plays out of this social survival, because you know back in the day, like if you approached a tribe or something and you weren't a benefit to the tribe, or you did something that was offensive, you know, the tribe would basically just leave you for dead, and then you would essentially die because you don't have, you know, humans are social creatures and we don't have any support. Oh my gosh. Dog's hype. So yeah, so like this social or this survival mentality plays out in a social situation where, you know, yeah. So I was shifting gears a little bit, and I'll rope you in here because this is something that I kind of wanted to touch on, is like, you know, the survival mentality now plays out in social scenarios where it's almost like, and I use the example of like cliques in high school. If like the popular kid, you know, talks down to the loser, or the loser kid feels intimidated, and this is all based on like tribal dynamics, like wired in us. And that's kind of what I meant by social survival, is that it's like if you do something that's not acceptable, or you're out there or something like that, people are gonna reject you, and you're not gonna get ahead. Like, you know, being charismatic and friendly and all that, like, it does things for you. It gets you further along in life. And while we may not have this like need for survival and to fight and all this stuff, it's playing out. It's playing out in our psychology, in our social dynamics.
I don't know what I don't know what that sound was.
All right.
Yeah, ignore it. But you know what I mean? So it's like we can't escape. We can't escape the survival mentality, no matter what. You know, we're seeing it play out in our interactions with people. You like people that one up you, stuff like that. It's like, you know, you tell them a cool story, and then they like try to tell you a cooler story. And it's like, are you competing with me? Are you competing with me for resources right now? Are we both trying to hunt this buffalo? You know, stuff like that. It's like we see it in our lives, and it's unspoken thing. I'm not saying this is necessarily right or wrong, but it's just trying to understand the dynamics behind where we've come from in our natural world to this modern world that we've been thrust into. And it's not like all of us who are alive now like decided to be in the modern world. We were born into it over generations. So it's slowly accumulated, where it's like, you know, back in the Renaissance, it's like you have the Magi and, you know, like all these fancy, you know, blue blood types, and it's like the peasants, the serfs or whatever. It's like, oh, the serf doesn't talk to the princess. You know, that's, you die for that or something. So it's like, you know, these tribal dynamics and the survivability or the survival mentality are now being played out in our interactions socially.
Yeah.
What do you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it goes along too, like with animals. You take take beavers. You know, beavers become cautious, and they're like, wait, we can create our own little like style of money and this and that. Let's say they start the same thing, businesses.
The sea otter.
But
It's just the time of the sea otter.
But let's say they get away from what their natural goal was. And they're like, well, we have homes, we have this stuff, we don't need to dam stuff up anymore. And they start to notice that as a result of that, there's other issues. You know, certain areas are getting flooded. Their homes are not getting flooded because there's no dams. But they don't really necessarily remember how to do dams. They just know that they need to. I think that's kind of people. We've lost what makes us people, and we've rebranded ourselves as, well, our brain makes us people. Since our brain makes us people, then anything we do, that's people. It's like, there's balance, and we're made to do a certain thing, and those certain things aren't meant to be exceeded, I think. So when you take our inherent nature out of the equation and say, now just apply yourself here. It's like, how? I think that's why people don't know what they want to do with their lives anymore, is because people don't know where to apply certain parts of them. It's like, I feel like I need to do certain things, but I don't know what those things are, and I don't know how to apply what I feel like I need to do into this real world. Because what I feel in my heart that I need to apply, I don't even know what that is. I just don't see anything that resonates with it. And I think a lot of that is because we don't have the options we used to have to fill those outlets of us and make us thrive and grow us.
Yeah.
I think we grew to a certain point, and then certain people took advantage of that and started using the people who were growing to create something. And now that we're in this new thing that's created, there's no new people coming up with these inherent skills. It's like, you look at like our dads and our dads' dads. A lot of them are like, yeah, if you need something built, like, I can just build it. And you're like, I don't understand. What do you mean? Like with a 3D printer? They're like, with my hands. You're like, yeah, like you hit the buttons. Yeah, it's like it doesn't make sense. It's like, you just see it in your head and you just create it. They're like, well, there's a lot of math, a lot of certain angles. You need these types of tools. And it's like, where did you learn this? They're like, well, you just know that this is what you need for this project.
Yeah.
How do you just know that? Like, it's like, back in the day, that's what it was. So like, if I had something like this, like, there was more creativity in creation. Now there's no creativity in creation. Now creation is, I want my guest bedroom to look like this. Call it company, they come out and it looks like that, and you're like, into fruition. They're like, no, you called the company. You didn't do anything. None of this was your idea.
Yeah.
They asked you, here's 3 different styles. Which one do you like the most? And you're like, I want to go with the earthy. And they were like, all right, we'll come up with something. And you were like, I like what you came up with. I've chosen what I've liked. And it's like, you didn't do anything. It's like there's no creation in creation anymore. It's everything's business. Everything's broken down. Everything's consolidated. There's no like free will thought in creation anymore.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, like, kind of when we were growing up, it was like, you're basically pressured to go to college. Everybody goes to college. It's like, now you have, like, and that's kind of the bridge between like your dad's generation, or our dad's generation and our generation, and then the new generation. Now it's like, everyone was told they have to go to college, you get all these degrees and do this life path. And now all the people that were the plumbers and electricians and carpenters and all that stuff, now they're starting to retire. So it's like, now you have a bunch of like, educated people that I guess make good amount of money, but then they have to pay somebody to do the things that they, someone 20 years younger might have kind of just learned up, along the way.
Because some stuff you only learn with experience.
Right. Yeah.
And it's figuring out yourself. It's like, I want to do this. And you go hands-on. It's like computers. When computers first like started to become a thing, and becoming popular when we were kids, I remember I became fascinated and wanted to understand it. So I started learning coding, learning all these different things. Obviously, it changed like 5 years later, and I gave up.
Yeah.
I was like, everything I learned is useless now. This is not something I want to follow.
Yeah.
But like with plumbing, it's like, if you really love the idea of how this water gets to all these different places, and you're just passionate about how people have gotten to a point to be able to do that, and you dedicate your life to it, and you get into it, and you start really trying to understand it, you're going to know the problems that a computer can't figure out. You're going to know the anomalies, the wild cards that other people are going to be like, I have no idea what's wrong here.
Yeah.
You're like, well, is that a blah, blah, blah tree? Yeah, the sap from that runs pretty deep, and it can gum up pipes. My guess would be it runs right under here. Pff, blueprints. Yep, looks like your piping runs right under that tree. So it's probably not the root. It's probably the sap. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one of these, boom, run a thing, and then bam, now it works. And yeah, we didn't have to replace the piping because the piping wasn't broken. It was just clogged with sap, giving it the appearance of broken.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a real scenario. I don't know anything about trees and sap, but it's like that's the kind of thing you would only figure out if you were a hands-on person who was interested in it and actually did the experience, boots on the ground kind of work.
Yeah.
But nowadays, like you said, you get all the more of these people who are more tech savvy. Like, we get all this stuff, but we're gonna like have a person go out to your place who does this stuff. They don't know everything I know, but they're the pipe guy. The pipe guy will be at your house. But the pipe guy knows light years beyond this guy. And it's just a separation of understanding where we're phasing out the people who actually have physical experience working with things that we've created. And we're phasing them out with people who just know about them.
Yeah, and on another level too, it's like we are replacing real world survival skills with this artificial drive for money/resource. Money equals resources. So it's like at some point you have, we're seeing this now. Like, that's what we're talking about. It's like the people that with the real skills that aren't necessarily like survival skills that you would find in the tribe 60,000 years ago, but like fixing your house and doing plumbing and
Electric, yeah.
normal work. That's more of a survival necessity now than being a hunter is. So that's like the equivalent of being a hunter. So now we're building a society where a bunch of people, all they know how to do is make money and pay hunters. And at some point, where the hunters, is everything just going to collapse and we're just a bunch of idiots and, that nobody knows how to do anything anymore and everything just kind of stagnates like the Universe 25? Like we've gotten to the generation where it's like, we're the beautiful mice. We don't really have sex or do anything, and then the population just declines,
Everything falls apart because nobody knows how to do anything anymore. Tough
And, like-
times create hard men. Hard times create tough men. Tough men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. That's the kind of that cycle.
That's good.
So,
What's that from?
what is that from?
That's pretty good.
It's a thing. It's from something.
Yeah.
But that's the idea is when you have men of the past, and that's what we've just gone through is like serious, like, World War II. I mean, war after war after war after war is our dads and grandpas.
Yeah.
Then we're brought into the easy times that created, which is now that we've gotten rid of the threat, we now are also more sustainable and we have more money. So we're going to redo this country and make it stronger than ever. Okay, now we have TVs, colored TVs, all this stuff. And, I have all the washing machines and all this stuff. No more hanging it on the wire to dry. It's like everything is just pushing buttons and my life's easy. And this is beyond. This is like heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Like everything is simple and easy, but I'm still a part of it all. And then what happens a generation after that? It's not going to be easier times. That wouldn't even make sense. That things would just get better. Things will get worse because we're losing the skills that we needed to make things as easy as they are now.
Yeah. Yeah, and like social survival and all these skills don't get you anywhere without some kind of foundation in society.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. It constantly changes. One day this type of guy is attractive, and one day the opposite type of guy is attractive, according to some magazine. But it's like by decade. So it used to be this kind of guy is what every girl wanted. Now the decade changed. Now it's this kind of guy. So there's not even like a standard on how a guy can be if a guy wants to impress people based on what the world tells you.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not even just your tribe. It's like, well, this comes from the Tribe Direct. This is the Tribe Direct, buddy.
Get out of here. Yeah.
But it's like this is like the biggest paper, the biggest newspaper in the whole tribe. Like this is 70 different tribes all read this paper, and they're saying this is the kind of tribesman that's like everybody wants to have on their team.
Yeah.
A decade later, that changes. I'm just saying there's no consistency with the social because the social changes depending on the social. So as men start to change into this, because that's what people say they want, now there's too much of that, and it comes off as this, and now nobody wants that. So now people want this. And the things that we're fixated on are movable. While in the past, it was, what kind of guy do you want? A guy who can hunt, a strong guy, a guy who's smart, who can predict what an animal's going to do, predict what another tribe's going to do. It's like basic things, we don't have that anymore. So now it's like, I want a guy who just knows how to manipulate people and make tons of money and shit on everybody. And I believe that guy will care about me.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not going to happen. Well, like, that doesn't even make sense. I want a guy who murders people, but meets me and is like, this one's got to live. Like, no, like, you'll probably die. Like,
well, let's shift the conversation to that too. Cause, so like what I consider, to be a survival mentality a successful survival mentality in this day and age is that, it takes being resourceful. Obviously there's a lot of options and avenues and doors that you can access. I mean, it takes drive and motivation to do them, but they're there. They're there now more than anything. So like if you're out there and you maybe you don't really have much going for you, or you're trying to figure out how to take your life to the next step, it's like there are options, and you have to be resourceful about it. You have to be dedicated and what's the word? Determined, disciplined. You gotta be disciplined, and you have to do the same thing every day, without having to, like if you're gonna work out and improve your body or something like that, it's not gonna be something you want to do every day. That kind of discipline is going to, the same way that our ancestors would go out and hunt and not catch anything. It takes doing that every single day to actually feed yourself. So, for anyone out there that's kind of maybe in a lull or just wants to take their life to the next level, this survival mentality is there. It's inside of you. You can use the resources and the tools at your disposal to get ahead and to improve yourself. And, it all kind of comes down to like, there's a certain level of intellect and cleverness and, there's a lot of information out there. So stuff like fixing your car or something like that, you could pay somebody to do it, or you could go online and search on YouTube the type of car you have, the problem you're having. You find like 10 videos of somebody fixing it, and then you go out and buy the part, and if you have the tools and the way to do it, you do it yourself, and then now you're saving money and you're learning something, and you keep doing that, and any problem that presents itself to you in your life, you attack it with confidence. You say, I'm gonna figure this out. I can do this. It's not a scary problem. This is just a simple obstacle that I have to overcome, and there are means and resources to be able to do it. And when you do that a couple times, you start to boost yourself. You start to learn more. You start to build the confidence, which also helps your psychological state of, like now you're more confident in conversations, or, you tell people, you're talking to somebody and you come off more competent and more in tune with reality. And that's kind of, that's how you get ahead in this world, is that you apply yourself and, you use everything you can at your disposal. And, and then it takes a step further where, the social aspect of that. If it's something you don't know, maybe you call your buddy and then you talk to him about it, and then he has a friend that knows something about plumbing, so you like try to get in touch with him or something. You like, these are things that you can do in this kind of anything goes quantum reality. It's like, who knows, maybe the buddy that your friend told you about, you call him up, you tell him you want to go grab a beer, and then he's like, oh, I'll come over after, and I'll look at your faucet or something, and then he's like, oh, no, it's just this, And it's like, well, you didn't learn how to fix it. You applied yourself, you got it fixed, and you still got the same result. So it's like that kind of thing is a healthy survival mentality. That's going to get you ahead. That's going to keep you growing and improving.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think a lot of what kept this ship going, we're running out of it. We were the coal, or whatever. We're running out of steam.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. It's like what kept us being people and persevering throughout all the hardships humans have faced throughout their history. And like everything goes through hardships, but humans are, I would say, one of the, if not the only thing that can look at its hardships as a collective and understand what each other has gone through. And it's sad to think that we've gotten this far and we're probably the least able to protect ourselves from these hardships now than we've ever been.
I also want to say another thing too. It's like everybody nowadays is so sorry for other people. Like, oh, I'm sorry for them. I'm sorry for them. It's like that
Sorry
doesn't
for
do
you.
anything. Don't be sorry for somebody. Like, either help them or just understand that that's just the way life is, and that you're doing what you're doing to the best of your ability, and they might not be. They might not be doing it to the best of their ability, and that's on them. Like you got to look out for yourself in this world. And, like you want to help other people, especially if they, if they deserve it. But it's like, you're not going to be able to help everybody. There's no sense in feeling sorry for people that aren't willing to go out and pick up the spear and hunt, metaphorically, because that's what it's going to take to get ahead. And that's what makes a good person. That's what makes a good society. And I'm tired of everyone feeling sorry for people less fortunate, because it's like, you're just going to feel sorry, or you're going to do something about it. Like, yeah, we can all
But
feel...
that's where we are, is people are upset about where we're at, but nobody knows how to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was like, well, let's rally. Everybody's like, well, I have a job. And with social media, I don't know if I want to rally, because then it could get back to my job that I rallied. And it's like people have that fear of like, I'll lose security if I do this. If everybody has that fear, it's like, what is it going to take for everybody to give up the comfortable life that we have to fight against something that we don't feel like we're equipped to fight against anymore? It's like,
Yeah.
So what? We're going to take up armor and get swords and like I'm sure some people will, but maybe I'll root for them. But it's like, I feel like that would be the majority's thing, is like, we'll root for the guys who want to do it.
Yeah.
But like, while I want to fight it, like,
And that's
like, I'm not going to put my life out there and literally fight it.
And that kind of, it comes down to kind of like, the idea of like virtue signaling or something,
Yeah.
So it's like, virtue signaling
That's a huge part of it.
It's a survival tactic, because it's a social survival tactic, because you're signaling to someone else, oh, I care, I'm virtuous, like,
Reality.
you should like me more, you should give me more stuff, you should call me next time that you're going out and doing something that is benefiting you, so it benefits me too. It's like, yeah, you're just telling me that you're virtuous and you care about other people, but you're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
You're not working towards anything except for yourself, which is survival too. But it's like, you're lying to me. You're creating an illusion that you care and you do other things that you're not actually doing. So it's bullshit. It's like, it's not feeling sorry for somebody and not actually applying yourself towards it is really just a way to say, look at me, you should like me more. So we have a lot of that going on where it's like everyone cares about all these causes. At the same time, everyone's unhappy because they're too lazy to do something about improving their own life. So they blame everyone else. And then at the end of the day, everyone else is doing the same thing, so it just gets masked. And you just seem like it's normal. But then the people that are working and that maybe have an opinion that's like, no, I'm not going to give $1 to this homeless guy because I worked hard for this dollar. And he's just going to buy booze at this gas station right here. And then someone's going to be like, oh, you don't care? It's like, well, why don't you give him $1?
Well, if you could see in the future, you'd see that tonight he overdoses on heroin too. So
it's like, oh, no, I can't give him $1. I'm broke, but like, so it's like, yeah, the social and the competitive and it's all roped into this dynamic.
It's a lot of
all
false
removed from
reality.
nature.
I would say it's majority false reality trying to mix with reality.
Yeah.
And that's why you're having like a backlash. Just people are like, anything that's false reality as a collective is brainwashing. There has to be intent. There's a decided upon reality that's not real that we should all follow. So there has to be ulterior motive. Reality is as it is. Why would we have to make it better? So if you have a way to make reality better and I have to get on board to go along with that so that reality can be better, I don't see it becoming better. And I mean, that's kind of like a lot of what's going on. It's like, well, you could do this, but, I mean, even fishing, it's like, you have to have a license.
Yeah.
They're fish. Like, you go out and kill a squirrel, you actually can't. I could go out and step on an ant. They're like, yeah, you can kill as many ants as you want, but you just can't kill any of the things that you could eat. You're like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
So I can eat fish, but I need a license to be able to. It's anything that is human has like bureaucracy around it now. It's weird. It's super creepy and weird. I don't like it. Well,
we're probably coming up on time in this discussion. It's just kind of exploring the ideas. I would say just kind of as a closing thought for me that, if you're out there, strive to be better. Use that survival mentality because, I mean, you're going to have to go after the things that you want to make happen, and you're going to have to be resourceful and confident, and that's the only way to get ahead, because everyone else is just looking for the easy button to get themselves ahead without doing the work. So it's going to require work. It's going to require improving yourself, being more social, not necessarily manipulating people, but putting yourself and the people that you care about's needs ahead of, it's a hierarchy, ahead of people that you don't know or people that have no influence on your life, because that's what they're doing to you. Like the people that are not, the people that you just interact with on the street that come up to you or whatever, it's like, I care more about myself and my friends and my loved ones than I do about these random ass people, because they do the exact same thing to me. This is all just a broken out, fractured, tribal instinct survival mentality throughout the entire society. And we have this illusion that we're all in it together. But at the same time, you see in everyday interactions where we're not all in it together. People find their tribes, people find the things that matter to them, and they're willing to step on other people. So, like, don't get stepped on. Like, it doesn't mean you have to step on other people, but you're going to have to strive to get ahead. You're going to have to compete, and it might be cutthroat at times. It doesn't mean you need to, totally take advantage of somebody, be malicious, But there is going to be an aspect of that that's going to play out, and you just have to understand that that is what it takes in order to get ahead from the next guy.
And for my closing, I'll take a slightly different approach, different angle, but like the spiritual, you know. The spiritual, I believe, is what got us here. It was like people's natural drives, all that stuff. There's no natural drives anymore. I believe most everything is driven by greed. Anybody who's making 6 figures, 7 figures, it's greed. You know, you wouldn't put yourself in such a stressful position that doesn't do any real good to make money unless you were just greedy and wanted money. So I would say a lot of it too is morals. It's a decision people have to make is, do I want to be a part of what's going on because I believe it's helpless to fight it, or do I want to risk everything to fight it? You know, it's a tough place, and we need both types of people, I guess. One more than other, but I think there's a tough place. It's like you said, you know, a lot of us are born into this kind of new way, and it is different, but we got to look at like the younger generation under us. We don't relate to them. We don't understand them. There's a bigger gap between us and this generation than us and the last generation.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem we need to acknowledge too, is as all of this stuff goes forward, we're watching the domestication of people. We're watching people change to a point where we can't really relate or connect to them anymore. So the generation that's going to be controlling, you know, our pensions, you know, helping us when we're old, is the generation that we can't relate to. And I would say that right there is a red flag for that competition. You know, if you have a young generation that doesn't relate to us, what's stopping them from just like raking in all the money we've made over the years with some new scheme they've come up with? If morals aren't something that are really being influenced now like they used to be, what's stopping the younger generation from taking advantage of us if they don't really feel connected to us?
Yeah.
You know, something to think about, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, you know, like be a dick and take advantage
Don't
of
do
people,
that.
but there's going to be times where it's your.
You have to make a choice.
You're gonna have to make.
You know?
Yeah, you put your needs above some other random motherfuckers. So you don't even.
Yeah, the needs
they're not
now are
gonna-
not what they used to be.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like you kind of got to play everything by ear, and you got to really watch people, not in a bad way, but like really get to know people.
Yeah, because
You know, see
people
what
are gonna
drives
fuck
them.
you over.
Yeah.
They're gonna try, and they will, and just don't let them.
Yeah.
Fuck them back if you need to.
If you
know,
have to.
like if they're gonna fuck you over,
Fuck them back. Fuck them back.
anyway.
Fuck them back.
Some conflicting morality.
Welcome back to
here.
Better Perspective Podcast.
But yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, guys.
you.
Let us know in the channel, in the chat or the comments. I meant, what you guys think about this. If there's certain aspects that you want us to go into more in the future. Let us know what you thought, and join us every Wednesday for Meta Perspective Podcast. Usually about 8:39 Central Time, and yeah. Keep it
Meta
real.
Perspective out.
Meta Perspective Podcast.